So, today I want to talk about the art of not caring about what other people think and how it can improve your life considerably. And I know everyone has heard this advice before, and it's way easier said than done, but there's a reason so many people swear by it. I think this is something you naturally struggle with when you're younger. You're trying to establish friendships, figure out who you are, and you don't really want to stand out too much. So, what ends up happening is you conform to more mainstream interests so you have common ground with the most amount of people possible and don't get judged for going against the grain. But what you're really doing, at least in my opinion, is masking your true self just to try to fit in with people you may or may not even like being around in the first place. You kind of become this version of yourself that's more acceptable instead of actually being who you are. It's not like you just wake up one day, suddenly stop caring. It doesn't work like that. It's something that kind of builds over time and through experiences and small realizations. For me, this was probably at its worst throughout high school and even college. I would overthink conversations constantly, like replay them over and over in my head all the time, thinking about what I said, what I should have said differently, how it might have come across. And on top of that, I wouldn't even pursue certain interests or say certain things because I was worried about how people would react. So you end up kind of pretending to be someone else just to avoid any kind of judgment. And looking back on it now, it's kind of crazy how much energy that takes. Because what I eventually realized over time is that people really do not care. And I mean that in the most honest way possible. They're too focused on themselves, their own problems, their own insecurities to be thinking about you like that, right? Even if someone does judge you, it's very short lived typically. They might think about you for a minute, maybe mention it to someone, and then move on with their day and forget about it completely. Like, and I mean, completely forget about it. Meanwhile, you're sitting there thinking about it for the next hour or even days sometimes. So you end up limiting your own life based on the opinions that either do or don't exist or don't last. At a certain point, I realized I was basically holding myself back for people who weren't even thinking about me like that. And when you really think about it, that doesn't make much sense. You're essentially living your life based on what you think other people might think, instead of just living your life for yourself. And I don't know why you would choose that when you have the option to actually create your own path, make your own decisions, and just be more authentic. Another big thing with this is just how exhausting it really is, like I mentioned. If you're constantly filtering yourself, watching what you say, trying to act a certain way, that's basically performance. And I mentioned that in my 9 to 5 video. Keeping up a performance like that all the time is extremely draining. It's not something you can realistically maintain for long term without burning out. And that's where a lot of the hidden cost comes in. It's not always obvious right away, but over time it adds up. You don't try new things, you don't talk about your actual interests, you don't put yourself out there, and you end up missing opportunities because of it. You might miss out on meeting people you actually connect with or experiences that would have been good for you just because you didn't want to stand out or be judged. I've definitely been guilty of that myself. There were times where I would isolate myself or just stick to what was comfortable because it felt easier than putting myself out there. And in the moment, it feels fine. But when you look back on it, that's where some of the regret comes into play. And I think that's the biggest thing. You're more likely to regret the things you didn't do than the things you actually did. Now, this change doesn't happen overnight, obviously. In the beginning, it's going to feel really awkward. You're going to feel out of place. You might second guess yourself. And it's not going to feel natural right away, which is expected. But over time, once you start doing things anyway, you'll start to realize that nothing disastrous is actually going to happen. No one is reacting the way you thought they would. No one is really paying that much attention in the first place. And slowly, that voice in your head starts to get quieter and quieter. I do want to clarify something because I don't think the goal is to completely stop caring at all, right? That's not realistic. You're still going to care sometimes, especially when it comes to the people you actually respect or value their input. And that's a good thing. Taking feedback or criticism from the right people can help you grow. The difference is you don't let every random opinion control your decisions anymore. You become a lot more selective with what you actually take seriously. And I think once you reach that point, things get a whole lot easier. You're not overthinking everything, you're not constantly second guessing yourself, and you're just a lot more comfortable being who you are. So the main takeaway from this is that most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. And even if they are, it shouldn't be something that controls your life. You miss a whole lot more opportunities holding yourself back than you do by putting yourself out there. So yeah, I appreciate the support. Hope y'all are having a great day. Make it a quick one. Love y'all. Peace.